Hi everyone, and welcome back to Project No Buy. In today's video, we're going to talk about something fascinating that I learned about my book buying habits and kind of what it's been teaching me about the reasons we buy things. So I recently did a pass through my books in an effort to maybe declutter some of them kind of prematurely, or maybe before reading them, do an evaluation of, do I really need to be hanging on to these, especially as my reading has slowed down and it's become clear that I'm going to be hanging on to these books for a long time to come, maybe years into the future. And to cut the story short, I am not actually decluttering any without reading. I did choose a few to kind of quickly speed read or look through and kind of see if I needed to actually read them. And I've added them to the bag of books that I'm eventually going to take to half-price books in order to declutter. But in this kind of rediscovery or cataloging of the books that I still currently own, my kind of TBR, my physical TBR, I rediscovered two books that really revealed something to me about my purchasing habits, or especially the purchasing habits that I used to engage in. I've also just noticed that I have some friends here that I'm going to move out of frame, and sorry for this guy and any of these kind of features that you could see in the video. I have decided to make a more kind of long-term shelf setup, and so I'm probably not going to be moving everything when I film these videos. I will include my sign here, which I do take down for the videos that go up on my music channel, but I did want to keep a more kind of stable, neutral background, so apologies if you do see some kind of things that I'm not trying to influence you to want or buy in these videos. Okay, after that totally unrelated tangent, the two books that I rediscovered that made me reflect on my purchasing habits, my reasons for buying them, were Stolen Focus and The Comfort Crisis. I actually had a mad dash around the house to look for this one because in the efforts to make myself get a jump on my TBR, to actually read these things, I've been kind of placing these books in piles around the house, which, it's organized disorder, organized chaos. My husband hates it, but it's just how my brain works. And I would like to eventually, the goal is to eventually not own any of these books. And so they'll eventually be gone. And so for me, it's kind of easier to live with knowing that it's temporary, even if it's a long-term temporary, even if it's in years to come that these books will be gone. And so I know I need to maybe have a better system that's more out of the way. But at the moment, I kind of have a pile by my laptop, which is on the kitchen counter. That's my desk area. I have 3 piles in the office, against the wall, of different topics of books. Some that are, I guess, on economics and capitalism, some that are various artistic kind of inspired books, and then another kind of more random pile. I have a pile under my nightstand and a pile on my nightstand. And then this book was actually on top of my bed frame. I just found it before filming. So I can show you my physical visual aids here of the books that taught me some lessons just in reevaluating my purchase of them. I think they were both purchased either last year or the year before, 2023 or during 2024's No Buy year. And I'm not actually sure, but those of you who have been watching me since the beginning, maybe you'll remember hearing me talk about buying one of these. So I started reading both of these books. I started reading Stolen Focus as a library book on my Kindle, and it was one of those books that I thought, wow, I'm getting a lot out of this. I do want a physical copy so that I can read it at my own pace, not have to go with the 2-week return window, or keep on trying to renew it, or take my Kindle offline so I can keep on reading it, and then what if it accidentally gets connected again and then I lose the book, the ways you can get around having to return things, etc. But I decided to purchase a copy. I think I got both of these on Thrift Books, despite both of these looking very new in condition, and I have not progressed any further in either of these. This was an audiobook that I was listening to from the library as well, and at the time I was much less accustomed to listening to audiobooks, but now I have pivoted my content consuming so that I actually kind of prefer an audiobook in terms of allowing me to read at different times, so like when I'm driving. And so it was, again, I think this was last year, where I was listening to this on my drives, and I thought, you know what, not only am I kind of fighting the return window here, coming up against that, but I also get more from reading things with my eyes, visually. And so before I made that pivot to kind of listening to things auditorily or however, I really wanted a physical copy. Have I continued to read this one either? No. And so when I'm actually ready to pick these up, I'm gonna have to start at the beginning and reread whatever I've read, catch up as it were, and take that time all over again. And then when I finish the books, I don't even know if I'm still going to want to keep the copies. And so what this taught me about my purchasing habits, certainly back then, and you know, these mentalities do still creep in occasionally now, is that sometimes the act of the purchase feels like a substitute for the actual act of doing the thing. And I know we've all heard this, some of us have experienced this, that's kind of common advice, you know, having the thing, buying the thing, shopping for the thing is not the same as doing the thing. And it's also not going to guarantee that you will do the thing. And there are various avenues of my life where this has played out in varying forms, right? Like I got a bunch of those crochet kits. In fact, they're here in a basket because, again, I wanted to suggest to myself gently that I complete these things. But I think I got some of them before I had as many kids as I do now. And so I don't have as much time to just sit down and do these things. So these are in various states of completion, right? These are like those packs, those crochet kits that come with all the materials and kind of are good for beginners, which I would still consider myself a beginner. And then here's kind of a half-finished, you know, for probably months now, this thing has been half-finished. I remember finishing my first one last year and having it on a video. I think it was one of the makeup declutters because I remember having the little bunny rabbit and being quite pleased that I had finished one. But now I have two of those in a state of almost completion. There's a tiger with no ears and no tail, and then that's going to be a mouse. Again, it has no ears and no mouth. And then I think I have 2 or 3 more of those kits that I would love to just complete and then be able to put all that away and not have it on my gentle to-do list, right? It's not really important if I actually do these things. It's not like for my job or for my well-being or for my livelihood or anything like that. Maybe it's for my well-being a little bit, but it's not something that I have to get done. And so it's just been sitting there for an indefinite period of time. I've literally had some of those for years. And so again, same with the books. Like I've had some of these for years with the intention of reading them, but I haven't read them. And so it was clearly not a necessity for me to own them for the amount of time that I've had them. It obviously wasn't a necessity for me to spend the money buying them and bringing them into my house and generating the carbon that, you know, shipping them and researching them and all of that, the materials to make them have generated already. And yes, I did get all of them, most of them on thrift books. And so it's not as if they were produced for the first time, but it was still not something I needed. And again, there's more areas of my life. I have more pairs of running shoes than I'm going to wear out anytime soon. I got the pair that I wear now, one of them anyway. I think I currently have 3 pairs. One of them is like a barefoot pair. One of them was a pair that my husband got because he got another similar pair on sale, and this pair was also on sale. And he thought I would use these other ones. And then my husband and I got another pair that match in store back when he was going to start running, and he was trying to get me to start running too. So this was kind of a jointly encouraged purchase, I guess. I wasn't out shopping for running shoes of my own accord, but I do have that first pair still. And meanwhile, my husband has worn them out because he ran marathons since starting running. And so he put the miles on them to actually wear them out and buy the next pair of shoes. I am still on that first pair, which incidentally, I really don't like anymore. We decided to get the silly pair of leprechaun green shoes just because they were fun, and my dad had a thing for the Leprechaun movie, and so it kind of reminded me of him. And I don't hate them, right? I'm still wearing them. I'm not going to declutter them because I don't like how they look. They're a functional piece of clothing in my wardrobe. But I do wish I had picked something more neutral or more cute, you know, like either something in a color that I like the blue or the lavender or even pink, or something in a neutral, like black, white, gray, something that goes with everything. And so now I have to wear out that first pair. And my husband wore out his really quickly because he was running a lot of miles per week, and I did not start running. So I'm just walking in them. I'm wearing them to physical therapy now, and maybe I'll start running. Who knows? But it'll be only a few miles, you know, less than 10 miles a week if I ever do start running, because I'm just a beginner. I have terrible cardiovascular health, right? That's kind of what stops me, or what I struggle with the most in my physical therapy workouts, is just the breathing of it. And so it'll be slow going. And obviously I'm not going to be buying more running shoes until I wear out the 3 pairs that I have. And it might be something, you know, I might keep 2 pairs, one barefoot pair and one normal pair for different purposes. But I I mean, again, these weren't entirely instigated by myself, but these are the kinds of purchases that I don't need to be making until the previous one is truly used up. And again, with the books, it's tricky because using up a book means reading it in most cases. And in some cases, you do want to keep a book to reference again in the future. And so it's not that having a book means you haven't used it up. But if you have a book that you intend to read, then you haven't used that book up yet. And it's kind of counterproductive to bring in more books that you have to use up because it will make it harder to use up the ones you already have. It's just like makeup products and clothing to some degree as well. Makeup products being consumable, or maybe makeup products being consumables are maybe a very clear example where every product you bring in means less use for the products you currently have. And so if you're trying to use something up, now it's going to take you longer, or you're going to have to put that product that you just bought in the wings, waiting to be used. And if something's just going to be waiting to be used, it can be waiting at the store or waiting at the online retailer's inventory stock house, or waiting somewhere that's not in your house, and you can hang on to that money that you would have spent on that thing that is now waiting in your house, causing all this clutter. Again, maybe here's where the fancy B-roll comes back, where you see the books on my dresser, the books on my bed frame, the books under my nightstand and on the table and on the counter and everywhere in the house. I actually used to keep them in the pantry because we don't have very many bookshelves, and I did a stint where I kept some of them up here in these videos. You might have even seen those, again, if you've been here a long time. But it wasn't really the purpose. These shelves I got to put my purses on. And so the purpose of these shelves was supposed to be for my purse collection. And we don't really have any proper bookshelves. I do also keep books in my closet because, again, there are shelves in there that I don't want to be filling with clothes and other kind of wardrobe accessories. It's just way too much space. And the shelves in the living room house my husband's Lego models. And so there's not really any other place for those either. It's kind of crazy how, in my opinion, we have a really, really big house, but we don't have the greatest storage organization solutions in some cases. And I'm not really interested in getting more storage or planning that out better right now. I'm interested in decreasing the amount of stuff that I have, since that's an ongoing process. It is kind of an uphill battle in that it does feel like I'm realizing that it's going to take me years to get rid of this stuff. And in the meantime, the storage solutions are kind of, we feel the lack of them at times. Or certainly, that causes some frustration with other people in my house when there's stuff kind of piling up everywhere. Back to the matter at hand. The other thought that was crazy to me is that the very reason that I purchased these books in particular was because I wanted to give them more attention, right? Like, I had started them, I deemed them valuable to whatever process I was going through at the time, and I thought, wow, I really need to give these more dedicated attention. Let me have the physical copy in my house. But what happened was the complete opposite. I had the copies, and that gave me the kind of false confidence to think that I was giving them the attention. I guess this is kind of what I was saying before about, the purpose, or the kind of misguided feelings we have when we buy something. It's a substitute for doing the thing. But it's just another way of putting it in terms of attention that I thought I was giving to the thing. And then it was that placebo effect. It really was, where it's like, I have it in my hot little hands now. Now I don't have to read it because I have this reminder. And the reminder is just going on and on and on indefinitely, and enabling me to not finish the book, or enabling me to continue putting it off for another day because, I already bought it. I have it. I won't forget to do it. But I didn't forget, or I haven't forgotten. I've just been able to put it off for longer just because I physically own it now. Let me know if this has ever happened to you, or if anything similar has ever happened to you. If you kind of get what I'm saying with this, where you think, I need to do that someday. I need to explore that further. You buy the thing, or you kind of acquire it in some other way, and that kind of serves as a bookmark for you to put off that thing for the foreseeable future, so that you actually get it done more slowly than you would have if you had just continued using the library's version or the free version, or even just put it on a to-do list for later, a wish list, a long-term wish list. The outcome would have been the same. If I had just put these books on a wish list and not purchased them, I wouldn't have read them, and I still haven't read them despite buying them and owning them. I can even think of examples from my wardrobe, my clothing collection, which is something that I pride myself on rotating through regularly. And I have actually started that experiment where you turn your hangers backwards. I'm going to talk more about this in a video in November, I think, the wardrobe update. So I won't dwell on it too much here, but I am noticing that it's taking me a long time to get through even what is becoming a smaller collection of clothing. And sometimes, the really fabulous pieces that I have, my favorites in concept, are the pieces that get worn the least because they take the most intention to wear. Or, for example, my Pink Pony Club boots that I'm most excited about to own are something that I don't actually get to wear as much. And part of that is just the nature of the shoe, right? Like I don't like to wear them for double service days just because they do actually still have a heel. It's a block heel, so it's not something that I'm going to throw my back out wearing, but it is something that I don't want to be wearing on a day that I'm walking 4 or 5 blocks instead of the single block from the parking garage. I don't want to wear them on a day that I might be late and I might have to run, even just because I don't want to scuff them. I don't want to prematurely age them. And I do have to kind of plan the outfit that they're going to be worn with. It's not really, you can wear whatever you want, but it is a shoe that I prefer to wear with intention. And so despite kind of feeling like I express myself through these shoes by owning them, the reality is that unless I'm wearing them, I'm not actually using them to express myself and my style, because and it's not even about people knowing that I have them, right? But if people don't actually see me enjoying them, then they're kind of not serving their purpose as a garment in my closet, or even as a signifier of my own personal style. Because buying the thing does not signify your style, it is the actual wearing of the thing and using of the thing. Regularly using the thing, right? The signature pieces of your signature style are the pieces that you wear the most. They are the pieces that you are seen in the most, that people then can associate you with because that's what they are familiar or used to seeing you in, right? You become familiar in those pieces. I wouldn't be surprised if people associate me with these striped sweatpants and probably, honestly, this sweater. This has become kind of my general work cover-up sweater because it kind of goes with everything. And I was actually close to decluttering this sweater, or I had put it away last year because I have a red one. But this navy blue one is actually very, very practical in that I don't really have to think about it. I can kind of just grab it on my way out the door, and it'll probably look relatively decent with whatever I'm wearing. And I guess one of the things I did forget about work is that it can be spontaneously very cold, either on stage or in the new kind of backstage green room area. And so even more so than last year, they redid it. And so after the renovations, it tends to be very, very cold when you go to the backstage area. And so I have to have an emergency sweater at all times at work now. So I'm glad I didn't actually let go of this one. I guess a recent hobby purchase that I haven't actually gotten to use as much as I thought I would is the pickleball equipment. And part of that is because I don't really have anybody to play with. And my husband is one of those people that gets really sucked into hobbies that he's into, but he's also kind of prone to getting sucked in and then moving on. And so even with the running, the marathons, he did 2 marathons and kind of has taken a break from running since then. He tore a calf muscle and so hasn't actually resumed running regularly, and it's now been several months. And he's now on to disc golf and is kind of getting really into that. He's doing it every day that he doesn't have work. And he's kind of put aside the running and the pickleball, which he also thought he was going to do at the time. And so now I don't really have anybody to play with, and it's difficult for me to kind of schedule all of these hobbies, and it does take some planning if you're a parent and you need to kind of organize people to watch your kids. And my kids aren't quite old enough to come with me to the park and play unattended while I play pickleball. They kind of need direct attention. And so in some ways that's causing part of the difficulty in terms of the well-intentioned pickleball equipment purchase that I would love to be using more, but it's just a challenge to do so. It does feel a little different in that instance, though, in that I don't really feel like I've accomplished becoming a pickleball player by buying a pickleball racket. I do feel that I am not really a pickleball athlete unless I'm out there playing the game. Unlike the books, where it did kind of feel like I've done the work through acquiring the book, right? Like I have prioritized it enough through making the purchase, which is just really not the case unless I actually go through and finish the book. And I guess some of that is just that we have these visions of what the purchase will do for us or do even just for our image. We imagine readers having bookshelves full of books. People who are into reading might have a book collection or a room with bookshelves in it. People who are into makeup or who might be beautiful and glamorous might have a vast makeup collection or even a smaller but curated makeup collection full of beautiful things. A person with great style might have, again, a very curated closet or a large closet or both or any variation of these kinds of purchase-related things, but not purchase dependent things, right? You don't have to be buying things to accomplish any of these goals or any of these image goals and any of these aesthetics, dare I say. But it is maybe the most straightforward and certainly the most pushed in society way of accomplishing these images, these aesthetics, these kind of the next thing to do mantras in terms of becoming more like the person you would like to be. So again, tell me, have you ever found yourself in this situation where you buy something and that thing becomes a placeholder for the thing that you actually wanted when you made that purchase? I do think this is subtly different from purchasing something for the future, for someday, because the intention was to give it that attention now, and it just gets pushed off because of having made the purchase. So it's not like the backups or not like kind of the mild hoarding of products in order to try out someday. This is the intention to use this thing now, or to become this person now, or to give into this fantasy self, get yourself a little bit closer now, and not having that happen, partly because of that act of purchasing, making us feel like it's starting to happen a little bit just through that purchase. These are the times that you fully imagine yourself immediately cracking open that book, immediately using that makeup in every look that you're going to plan for the next month, immediately wearing those clothing pieces with everything in your closet, immediately doing this new hobby or playing this new sport, and then you just don't. All right, I would love to hear from you about this as always. Tell me your stories in the comments below, and I will say bye for now and see you in the next one.